Shane Nolan didn't have time to fall in love. He barely had time to breathe between double shifts and kindergarten drop-offs. The cardboard box he balanced on one shoulder was heavier than it looked, and his 5-year-old daughter, Lily, was clinging to his leg like a koala. Her little fingers dug into his jeans as he adjusted the box and tried not to curse in front of her. "Daddy, she looks sad," Lily whispered, pointing at a woman standing helplessly beside a shiny black car with her arms full of files and no clear plan to open the trunk. Shane glanced over. The woman looked like she hadn't slept in days. Tousled hair in a messy bun, oversized navy coat, heels that didn't match the dirty sidewalk she was planted on, and a lost look in her eyes. She was stunning in that polished but falling apart way. He'd seen enough tired people to recognize when someone was barely holding it together. Without thinking, he shifted the box to one arm and walked over. "Hey," he said, nodding toward her pile. "Need a hand?" She looked up, blinking like she hadn't even noticed someone was talking to her. Then she smiled, small, tired, grateful. "If you wouldn't mind, I'm kind of juggling too much." "Story of my life," he muttered, setting his box down and reaching for hers. She hesitated. "Are you sure? You've got your own, it's fine," he said quickly. "My daughter's just excited to help strangers." Lily gave a tiny wave from behind Shane's leg. The woman's smile softened. "Hi, sweetheart, I'm Avery," Lily beamed. "I'm Lily. My daddy carries heavy stuff." Avery laughed, and for a second something in her eyes lit up. Shane loaded the files into her trunk. He noticed the expensive car, the sleek chrome logo, the subtle scent of something that definitely wasn't drugstore perfume, but there were no assistants, no driver, no one around, just her. "You okay?" he asked when she leaned against the car door like she might collapse. "Yeah, just one of those days," she said with a shaky breath. "I had to let half my staff go, a deal fell through, and I spilled coffee on my last clean shirt." Shane raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like the kind of day that ends with ice cream or screaming into a pillow." She laughed again. "Maybe both." He shut the trunk. "Look, I don't know what your afternoon looks like, but there's a diner up the street. Lily and I are headed there. You should join us. They've got pancakes the size of your face." Avery looked like she wanted to say no. He could see the hesitation, but then she glanced at Lily, then at the fading light, and finally back at Shane. "I could use pancakes." They walked up the block together, Lily skipping ahead. Shane held the door for her, and Avery stepped into the cozy diner like it was the first real breath she'd taken all day. Over coffee and chocolate chip pancakes, she started to relax. "I'm guessing you're not in the box moving business full time," she said, sipping from her mug. Shane gave a low chuckle. "Construction mostly. It's been rough lately. I pick up whatever I can. Nights, weekends. I gotta keep things together for Lily." Avery nodded, her expression unreadable. "You're doing a good job. She's amazing." "She saved me," he said quietly. "After her mom walked out, I didn't think I could do it. But Lily, she gives me a reason to keep going." Avery looked down at her plate. "People don't talk like that anymore," he shrugged. "Maybe they should." She didn't say anything for a while. Just watched Lily press her nose to the glass to name every car driving by. Then she asked, "Why'd you help me?" Shane looked her in the eye. "Because you looked like you needed it." Avery was quiet again. Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a black leather business card holder. "I should probably tell you something," she said, pushing a sleek card across the table. Shane picked it up. The name at the top made his eyebrows lift. Avery Kensington, CEO, Kensington and Hartwell Enterprises. He looked at her, stunned. Whoa." "Yeah," she said, almost apologetic. "I usually have a driver and an assistant, but I gave them the afternoon off. Needed to prove I could still handle things alone." He blinked. "You're a CEO. Like one of those Forbes list types, something like that." Shane leaned back, letting it sink in. Avery Kensington. She wasn't just tired, she was powerful, rich, and probably used to people fawning over her. But she didn't look like someone who wanted to be admired. She looked like someone who hadn't been truly seen in a long time. "I didn't help you because of who you are," he said. "I know," she whispered. That night, after they walked her back to her car, she crouched down to give Lily a hug. "Thanks for sharing your pancakes with me," she said. "And your dad," Lily grinned. "You should come next time too." Avery looked up at Shane. He held her gaze. There was something there, something raw, real, and unspoken. "I'd like that," she said quietly. He nodded. Then let's not make it a one-time thing. They stood there for a moment, neither wanting to leave. Then she slid into the driver's seat and drove off. As Shane carried Lily home, she rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, "She was pretty. I think she likes you." He smiled to himself. He had no idea what he was getting into, but for the first time in a long time he didn't feel like he was drowning, and he really hoped she came back. 3 days passed before Shane saw Avery again, and when he did, it was the last place he expected on a muddy construction site, wearing black boots that still had the price tag tucked inside. "Is this a bad time?" she asked, shielding her eyes from the late afternoon sun. He blinked twice. "You're standing in a pit we just poured concrete into last night, so yeah, probably not where you usually spend your Thursdays." "I figured," she said, glancing down at the uneven ground and wincing. "But I wanted to return something." She held up a small pink scarf, the one Lily had tied around her stuffed rabbit, the one she'd left behind at the diner booth. Shane exhaled. "She cried about that for 2 days. You might have just saved my sanity." Avery's smile was quiet but genuine. "I thought so. I couldn't drop it off any earlier. My schedule's been unpredictable." He stepped aside so she could walk along the plywood path that led toward the site office. Her boots made awkward noises on the boards, but she didn't complain, just followed him like she belonged there. "You came all this way just for a scarf?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "I had other motivations," she said, brushing dust off her coat with a faintly embarrassed look. "I haven't stopped thinking about you." He paused at the trailer's door, hand on the handle. "You don't even know me." "I know you're honest," she said firmly. "You didn't ask for anything from me. You didn't act like I was some prize to win. That's rare." Shane opened the door and held it for her. "You don't have to go slumming it to prove a point, Avery." Her expression didn't waver. "This isn't a performance. You made me feel like I wasn't failing at everything. That matters." Inside, the trailer was cramped and smelled like coffee and sawdust. Shane cleared a stack of blueprints off a chair and gestured for her to sit. "You must be used to people bending over backward to impress you," he said, leaning against the counter. "I'm not that guy." "I'm not looking for that guy," she replied. He studied her for a moment, trying to find the angle, but there wasn't one. She wasn't wearing the tailored coat today, just a charcoal sweater and jeans that looked too new to have seen a washing machine. Still, her posture screamed control. Even sitting, she looked like she was used to calling the shots. "Why me?" he asked, crossing his arms. "You could have anyone." "I don't want anyone," she said, her voice low. "I want someone who doesn't care about the numbers in my bank account, someone who sees me when I'm not performing." He stared at her, unsure what to say. She stood, brushing off her jeans unnecessarily. "I know this is complicated. You have a daughter. You have a life. I'm not trying to bulldoze into it." "Then what are you doing?" "Trying," she said simply. "Trying to see where this could go." He didn't reply right away. His phone buzzed on the counter, and he glanced at the screen. Lily's kindergarten. He answered quickly, nodding along as the teacher explained that Lily had a mild fever and needed to be picked up. When he hung up, Avery was already reaching for her bag. "I'll drive you," she said. He opened his mouth to protest, but she cut him off. "You're on a site. You'd have to leave your truck here. Let me help." He hesitated, then nodded once. 20 minutes later, they were pulling into the school parking lot in a matte silver SUV that probably cost more than his last 3 jobs combined. Avery didn't make a big deal of it. She just handed over her ID to the front desk, signed in beside him, and waited quietly. When Lily appeared, cheeks flushed and eyes watery, she clung to Shane like her little body was made of Velcro. "I want to go home," she whispered. "We're going," he said gently, lifting her into his arms. "Look who came with me." Avery smiled softly. "Hi, Lily." "I brought your scarf." Lily blinked at her, then whispered, "Did you come from the pancake place?" "I did." Lily's head fell against Shane's shoulder, but her hand reached out for the scarf and clutched it tight. Back at Shane's apartment, everything felt too small. The living room was cluttered with toys and the faint scent of soup simmering in the slow cooker. But Avery didn't flinch. She helped pour juice, found a clean blanket without asking, and quietly tucked Lily onto the couch. "She's lucky," Avery said after a while, standing beside him in the kitchen as he stirred the pot. "Most people don't get this kind of love." "It's not enough sometimes," he said quietly. "It is," she replied. It's just rare. He glanced at her, and for the first time she looked uncertain. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I've never needed anyone before, not like this. There was a long pause, broken only by the bubbling of the soup and Lily's faint breathing from the couch. I don't know how to do this either, he said, but I want to. Avery stepped closer. So do I. He didn't kiss her, not yet, but the space between them changed, narrowed, charged. I've got a board meeting at 8 tomorrow, she said eventually. But after that, maybe we could try another pancake, he nodded. Bring rain boots this time. We're going to the park after. I'll buy some, she said, and her smile was different now, unpracticed, a little unsure but real. She left just before sunset, promising to check in later. Shane stood at the window after she'd gone, watching her SUV disappear into traffic. Lily stirred on the couch. Is she gonna come back? He tucked the blanket around her small frame. I think she already has. Rain fell in sheets that morning, drumming against the windows of Shane's apartment like an anxious heartbeat. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, coloring a castle with purple towers while Shane packed her backpack. Her fever had passed, but he planned to keep her home one more day just to play it safe. Avery hadn't called yet. Not that he was expecting her to, not really. People like her had oceans between moments like theirs. Still, the silence made something in his chest tighten. He wasn't used to waiting on anyone but himself and a 5-year-old. He was halfway through chopping carrots for lunch when someone knocked. Lily bolted upright. Maybe it's her, she said, eyes wide. Shane wiped his hands on a dish towel and opened the door. Avery stood there, soaked through despite the oversized umbrella she held above her head. Her hair clung to her cheeks, and her coat looked like it had lost a battle with the wind. I didn't want to cancel, she said. Couldn't get a car, and I figured if I waited another hour I'd talk myself out of coming. You walked here? Shane asked, stepping aside quickly. 2 blocks, she said. From a coffee shop. I bribed the barista to watch my laptop. Lily ran to her. You're wet. I know, Avery said, crouching down slowly. I made a terrible decision, but I brought you something. From the inside of her coat, she pulled out a small, clear box. Inside was a tiny paper crown covered in glitter and rhinestones. Lily gasped. It's sparkly, it's for your castle, Avery said. Every princess needs one. Shane watched the exchange, his jaw tight. The gesture wasn't just sweet, it was personal, intentional, and it scared the hell out of him. As Avery stood, he handed her a dry towel. She took it with a quiet thank you, rubbing it across her damp sleeves. You didn't have to come all the way here, he said finally. Yes, I did, she replied. I need to stop disappearing when things get messy. Shane leaned against the counter, arms folded. You okay? She hesitated. My CFO confronted me this morning, said I've been distracted, that I'm making emotional decisions. Are you? Yes, she said. But for the first time, I don't feel like I'm pretending. I'm tired of only being impressive on paper. Shane studied her. So what happens if you stop being who they expect you to be? Avery looked at him, something raw flickering in her expression. I don't know, but I think I'd rather lose a title than keep losing parts of myself. Before he could respond, Lily tugged on his pant leg. Can she stay for lunch? She asked, holding up 2 plates. Avery looked at Shane. If that's okay, he exhaled slowly, then nodded. They ate on the floor, Lily sandwiched between them, showing off her coloring as if it were a museum exhibit. Avery listened, asked questions, and laughed when Lily called the dragon Steve. After lunch, Shane tucked Lily in for a nap. When he returned, Avery was standing by the window, watching the rain blur the city skyline. You're good with her, he said. I've never had to be good with kids, she replied. I wasn't sure I could be. You didn't grow up with siblings? No, only child. My parents worked constantly. I spent more time with nannies than with them. Shane leaned against the wall. That why you work so much? At first, yes. I wanted to prove I mattered. Then it became about control. If I ran everything, I couldn't be disappointed. You don't seem like someone afraid of disappointment. I'm terrified of it, she said quietly, but I hide it better than most. He didn't say anything. Just let the silence breathe between them. Finally, she turned toward him. What happens now? She asked. That depends, he said. Are you going to keep walking through storms to bring glitter crowns to little girls? If I have to, she said, her voice soft. He stepped closer. You don't have to prove anything to me. I'm not trying to prove anything, she said. I'm trying to be someone who doesn't run. She reached for his hand, and for the first time he let himself take it. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was steady. I don't know how this ends, she said. I don't either, he replied. But I think it starts here, she nodded, eyes locked with his. Then let's start. And for once, neither of them looked away. Spring came in slowly, melting away the last of winter's chill like a sigh of relief. Shane stood behind his food truck at the Saturday market, flipping pancakes on the griddle while Lily sat on a folding stool nearby, swinging her legs and sipping hot chocolate from a foam cup. She wore a plastic tiara, Avery's idea. Business had picked up lately. Word had spread about the single dad with caramelized banana pancakes, and locals came for his food as much as his story. But today wasn't about the crowd. Today, Avery was coming. He checked his watch. She was late. Not unusual, her life ran on a different kind of time. Still, he scanned the street every few seconds, trying not to show it. When she finally appeared, it wasn't in heels or a tailored coat. She wore white sneakers and a loose linen dress, her sunglasses pushed onto her head. In one hand was a woven bag filled with produce. In the other, a single sunflower. Lily spotted her first. She brought you a flower, Daddy, Avery laughed as she approached. It's not for him, it's for you. I found it near the honey stand and thought it looked like you. Lily took it with both hands like it was treasure. It's sunny, that's what I thought, Avery said. Shane handed her a fresh pancake on a paper tray without saying anything. She took a bite, then leaned against the counter beside him. I've been thinking, she said, brushing powdered sugar off her fingers. About what it means to build something, he glanced at her. You mean like a business? No, not work, something that lasts, something real. I've spent my whole life buying things that vanish the moment I lose interest. This, she gestured to the truck, to Lily, to the sunlight filtering through the trees, this stays. He flipped a pancake and slid it onto someone's plate, then lowered the heat and stepped out from behind the counter. You're not used to staying anywhere long, are you? She didn't answer right away. I used to think permanence was a trap. Stay too long and things fall apart, so I kept moving. New cities, new roles, new people. But now I want stillness. He wiped his hands on his apron and nodded toward the bench beside the tent. Sit with me. They sat, Lily between them, tearing pieces of pancake and feeding them to a squirrel that kept creeping closer. I talked to my board last week, Avery said. Told them I'm stepping back, Shane blinked. You're quitting. No, I'm just making space. I hired a COO to handle the day-to-day. I'll still oversee strategy, but I don't want my name to be the only thing I have left when the lights turn off. Lily looked up at her. Does that mean you'll come to the park more? Avery smiled. If your dad says yes. Shane looked at her for a long moment. You're serious about this, about us? I've never been more serious, she said. I don't want this to be a moment. I want it to be a life. He exhaled, slow and deep. You know I don't have any flash to offer. No penthouse, no yacht, just this truck and a 2-bedroom apartment with a temperamental radiator. I'm not asking for flash, she said. I'm asking for honesty. And maybe some pancakes on Sunday mornings. He reached over and laced his fingers through hers. Those I can do. The next weekend, they brought Lily to the community garden, where she planted her sunflower in a corner plot and announced she was naming it Queen Bee. Shane watched Avery kneel beside her in the dirt, showing her how to pat the soil down gently and water the roots. Later, when Lily fell asleep in the car on the way home, Avery rested her head against the window and said quietly, I don't think I ever believed I'd be someone's home. Shane didn't look over. He didn't need to. You are, he said. That evening, they made dinner together, nothing fancy, just pasta with too much garlic and a salad that Lily declared too leafy. Afterward, they sat on the couch with their feet tangled together and the soft sounds of cartoons humming in the background. Avery turned toward him. I love you, he didn't hesitate. I love you too. It wasn't loud or cinematic, it didn't need to be. It was steady, sure, the kind of truth that didn't ask to be proven. 3 months later, Shane stood in a navy jacket at the edge of a small rooftop garden, holding Lily's hand as Avery walked toward him in a simple ivory dress, her hair down, a single sunflower tucked behind one ear. Only a dozen people were there, close friends, a few of Shane's crew, a couple of Avery's confidants from her company. No photographers, no press. Just the people who mattered. When they exchanged vows, Lily handed them the rings, wearing her tiara and a serious expression. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant said. Shane looked at Avery and she whispered, "Told you I don't run." "No," he said, brushing her cheek with his thumb. "You stay." Their lips met, gentle at first, then deeper, as the city lights flickered on around them and the sky turned a soft violet. Later that night, long after guests had left and Lily had fallen asleep beside a stuffed rabbit in a guest room filled with fairy lights, Avery and Shane sat barefoot on the rooftop, sharing leftover cake and watching the stars blink into existence. "I never thought," she began, but he cut her off with a kiss. "I did," he said. From the first pancake, she laughed into his shoulder and he wrapped an arm around her. They didn't need more than that, they had each other, and that was everything. Avery pressed her palm against the glass of the French doors, watching the sunrise spill gold over the quiet city. Behind her, the faint sound of Lily's laughter echoed from the guest room where Shane was helping her pick out clothes for their day trip. The soft hum of morning life coffee brewing in the kitchen, the rustle of drawers opening and closing wrapped around her with a warmth she had never associated with silence before. Her phone buzzed on the marble counter, screen flashing with the name of her assistant, but she ignored it. The company could wait. It had been waiting more and more lately, and she'd found that the world didn't end when she didn't answer. Shane appeared in the doorway, shirt half-buttoned, Lily perched on his hip with braided pigtails and a sparkly backpack slung over one shoulder. "She says I have no fashion sense," he said. Lily nodded solemnly. He wanted to wear a brown shirt with gray pants. Avery turned, laughing. "A crime against style." He raised an eyebrow. "Are you ganging up on me already?" "She's just got an eye," Avery said, taking Lily from him and setting her down. "And you, Mr. Nolan, should be grateful she cares." "I am," he said, voice quieting. She felt it then how easily their rhythms had intertwined. How natural it had become to wake up to both of them, to plan weekends around parks and markets, to fall asleep with her hand resting on his chest while Lily snored softly down the hall. They'd decided, last week, to turn the guest room into Lily's room full time. It hadn't been a rushed conversation. It was simple. Obvious. Lily had already begun referring to the place as home without being prompted. Today they were headed to the coast 3 hours south, where Shane's grandmother had left behind a small cottage no one had lived in since she passed. He hadn't been back in years. When he'd mentioned it in passing, Avery had asked why. "Because I never saw it as mine," he'd said. "But maybe it's time I start claiming things." She'd kissed him for that, not because it was romantic, but because it was brave. Now, as they loaded the car, Avery noticed how careful Shane was with the picnic basket, how he made sure Lily's booster seat was secure twice over, how he'd packed a blanket for the beach even though the forecast promised sun. As they pulled onto the highway, Avery tilted her head back against the seat and asked, "What was she like? Your grandmother?" "Stubborn," Shane said immediately, "but she made the best blackberry pie in the Tri-County area. Taught me how to use a hammer before I could spell my name." "Is the house livable?" "Barely," he said. "It's dusty and probably home to a few spiders, but the bones are good." Lily piped up from the back. "Do they have unicorns there?" "No," Shane said, "just jellyfish." Avery glanced over. "You okay going back?" He nodded. "Yeah, I want you to see it. I want her to see it too." The drive passed in easy conversation and car games. When they arrived, the cottage was exactly as Shane had described, weather-worn but standing proud against a backdrop of dunes and tall grass. A faded wind chime tinkled from the eaves. Avery stepped out first, shielding her eyes against the sun. "It looks like something out of a storybook." "It used to feel like one," Shane said, unlocking the door. Before everything got hard. Inside, the air was thick with dust, but the light filtered in softly through the lace curtains. Avery wandered through the rooms while Shane opened windows and let the sea breeze in. In one room, Lily found a music box and turned the crank. A lullaby played, slightly off-key, and she danced in a slow circle, her backpack bouncing. They spent the day cleaning, scrubbing counters, airing out linens. Shane fixed a broken step outside while Avery painted over the water stains in the kitchen. By sunset, they sat on the porch with glasses of lemonade and sand between their toes. "I was thinking," Shane said, watching Lily chase waves. "What if we kept this place?" Avery turned toward him. "Not instead of the city," he clarified, "but as a retreat. A place that's just ours." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I love that idea." He laced his fingers through hers. "I want to build a life with you, Avery, not just weekends and breakfasts, all of it, the hard and the easy." She pulled back slightly to look at him. "You already are." "I know it's not the world you came from," he said, "but I'll give you one worth staying in." She kissed him then, slow and certain. That night, they made beds with mismatched sheets and tucked Lily in beneath a quilt that smelled faintly of cedar. Avery stood in the doorway after she'd fallen asleep, watching the rise and fall of her chest. Shane wrapped his arms around her from behind. "She's safe here." "We all are," Avery said. The next morning, they walked the beach barefoot, collecting shells and sea glass. Avery watched Shane lift Lily into the air and spin her around, both of them laughing like the world had no weight. Back at the cottage, Avery unpacked a small box she'd brought without telling him. Inside was a framed photo of the three of them, taken at the market weeks ago. She placed it on the mantel. Years later, that same photo would sit in the hallway of the city apartment they still kept, beside school crafts and vacation magnets. The cottage would become their summer home, the place Lily would invite friends to and later sneak kisses from her first crush on the back porch. Avery's company continued to thrive under her new leadership style, focused, but flexible. She turned down press when they asked about her personal life, preferring instead to let her happiness speak without words. Shane expanded the food truck into a small cafe near the waterfront, one that featured a queen bee pancake named after Lily's sunflower. Locals came for the food but stayed for the stories. On their 5th anniversary, they returned to the rooftop where they were married. No guests this time, just the three of them, watching the city from above, wrapped in the same quiet certainty that had brought them together. Avery looked out at the skyline and whispered, "I didn't know this kind of love existed." Shane kissed the back of her hand. "It always did. You just had to stop running long enough to let it catch you." And she never ran again.